All right, y'all, we are working our way down the Eastern Conference almost to the very bottom now. We're at 14 here with the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, the headline of the offseason is drafting Jaden Ivey with the 5th overall pick. Made a lot more sense for him to go to the Motor City than it probably did with Sacramento. I think, with Caden Cunningvey as his backcourt running mate, just made a lot more sense than it would with De'Aaron Fox. Just because I think Cade and Jaden now will kind of cover all the bases for what you want in your two guards, where Cade will give you, the defense, the size, the length, was able to facilitate, run the offense, while Jaden Ivey will give you kind of that, 20-point scorer, hopefully, maybe not right away, but down the road. A guy that can get a bucket anytime, the athleticism, the transition kind of speed. I think that works and they can play off each other really well. Both can, kind of get open looks based off of playing off each other. Really excited about seeing that backcourt take the NBA stage. Another kind of sneaky couple moves they made in terms of taking on Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, and Kemba Walker. Basically a salary dump from the Knicks. Looks like, Kemba may go elsewhere. Will probably go elsewhere. But Nerlens and Alec Burks, whether they'll stay, at least maybe until the trade deadline, they'll look to flip them at some point. I really think Alec Burks is actually a really solid role player. Probably will catch the eye of maybe a team in the playoff race, or at least will be, a decent role model for these younger guys in the young core that Detroit has as well. And Nerlens can, give you some depth at the big man position. But now you're kind of taking stock of this roster, and I feel like you have to like what you see in terms of, what does Detroit look like in the next 5 years? Still, I wouldn't say any pressure to, even make the play-in. I think it'll take probably at least another year trying to incorporate Jaden Ivey as another, top 5 pick. Let Cade kind of get a full season under his belt. Of course, he kind of, coming off injury. His rookie season, first half was a little shaky, but second half looked incredible. If he played like that the whole season, he probably would have been runaway rookie of the year. So now going into sophomore year, if he's healthy, running that offense again, expect a big jump from Caden Cunningvey. Hopefully Jaden Ivey is as advertised in terms of scoring the basketball and the athleticism, all of that. That's usually a given. Saddiq Bey, again, really solid wing. Mentioned him as someone that Bill Simmons didn't include in his trade value rankings as even honorable mention. I think that was a disservice to Saddiq Bey. Really solid on both ends of the floor, can shoot the ball from three extremely well. Look for him to keep that, kind of consistency and even maybe take another step up as well. It'll be interesting now because they also, not to mention Jalen Duren coming in to town. It's one of the youngest prospects in the draft. Obviously gives you size and athleticism at the center position, and kind of fulfills a role. Isaiah Stewart can kind of play center. I think, he's been working in the summer league, showed on kind of more shooting from the perimeter, see if he can kind of be that stretch four, just because, he's got that toughness and that defensive grit. Doesn't necessarily have the height and size in terms of trying to defend a traditional center. So Duren will give you that without, sacrificing speed and athleticism. Really looking forward to seeing what he can do, as well as if Isaiah Stewart can adjust to be kind of that four, power kind of stretch four. Because it is tough in today's NBA to have your front court be two guys that can't shoot the basketball. Isaiah Stewart's shown at least a willingness. And he knocked down, a decent amount. He didn't take very many in Summer League, but he knocked down a high percentage of the ones he did take. So that's got to be promising in terms of his development. Again, not a ton of pressure here to win or anything, so they can kind of experiment with some of the lineups, what works, what doesn't, and go from there. The other thing, and this had some people scratching their heads in terms of, re-signing Marvin Bagley to 3 years, $37 million. I don't think anyone really valued him in the kind of double-digit annual salary. I mean, they've got a lot of salary cap. I don't hate it. I don't know if they were bidding against anyone per se, just because, Bagley's still a number 2 overall pick not that long ago. And I think everyone agreed that he was rightfully drafted in the top 5 that year. Obviously coming out of Sacramento and what we know about them and development and just in general as a franchise. We're still waiting to see how much of his development's on him and how much was on kind of his environment. So I think it's worth taking another flyer out on him, and realistically, $12 million a year isn't that much for a guy like Marvin Bagley. I don't mind it. I'm kind of curious to see how he fits in a full season in Detroit as well. They also have the Kelly Olynyk piece, which I imagine they would probably try and trade unless they really like him and his mentorship and experience. But depending on how he feels about it, would rather play for a contender. We'll have to see. It's one of those teams that's kind of funky in terms of some of the veteran versus young. Corey Joseph opted into his player option. Again, kind of filling that backup point guard role, along with Killian Hayes, who we're still kind of waiting to really catch on. Shown some flashes, just never really put it into gear yet. But maybe, I don't know. At this point, the guys who will fly or swim usually get there. He's looking kind of like a sinker or a fall out of the nest kind of guy. But, guys can develop later in their careers. It's not impossible. So we'll keep an eye on Killian Hayes. And then another flyer on Kevin Knox. Just signed him two for $6. Hopefully he can play. I feel like he hasn't actually played that much. Also being, a pretty high draft pick. Really hasn't seen the floor that much. Hopefully in Detroit he'll get the opportunity to see the floor. But I think overall, just a lot of hope here in Detroit. Everyone, I think, is just excited to see how this team gels. All these young guys working together. Dwayne Casey, see what he as a coach can do with this gang. And we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to seeing Detroit. I think, not sure if they'll be 14 again. I think they have the talent to go higher, but whether it all come together and they can defend enough to actually win some games, who knows? But I think, offensively they're going to be really exciting. A lot of the transition stuff, some lobs, hopefully. A lot of Jane Ivey and Cade getting out in space. It's going to be a good time. So looking forward to these Detroit Pistons. Let me know what y'all think about where you have them in the Eastern Conference. And look forward to your responses. But for now, that's it from me. Take care of yourselves. Take it easy. And I'll see you next time.